Next up, we are going to bring up our main man, friend of the channel, Andre 3000, who is clapping back at critics who have an issue with comments that he has made about rapping into your older ages. So, for
Mhm.
anybody who is unaware, ever since Andre 3000 did an interview with GQ earlier in 2024, in which he talked about not really having a lot of raps that he's sitting on because he doesn't really feel the urge to rap. Part of the reason for that is because he's getting older, and so he feels as though rap is a young person's game. And he doesn't know what he would want to talk about. And he said for any of the rappers who get older and they still want to rap, kudos. But for him, he just doesn't feel like that's a lane that he wants to operate in. He feels like the older he gets, what is he going to talk about? Things like his colonoscopy and so on and so forth. And since he has said that, a lot of people have come out criticizing his stance. Um, some people who I can think of off the top of my head have been people like Lil Wayne has something to say about it. LL Cool J also has something to say about it. So people basically have dissenting opinions towards Andre 3000 and his view that it's a little crazy to continue to go over the age of like 40 and continuing to rap. And so now I guess he is responding to some of the people who are criticizing his stance on this. So this says Andre 3000 hits back at rappers who criticize his age comments. Andre 3000 is hit back at his rap peers who have criticized his comments about rapping over the age of 40. In a cover story interview for Crack Magazine, the Outkast legend said, I've heard some rappers reply to what I've said about age, and I have to ask, what are you rapping about? Some of the biggest braggadocious rappers in the world, and we love them for that. But it's so much easier to do that for the rest of your life. I don't necessarily rap like that. Our formulas are different. Three Stacks continued to defend his stance while responding to an unnamed critic. He doesn't know what it takes for me to do what I do. I don't know what it takes for him to say the same thing over and over again and still keep it creative, but I love him for doing it. Andre 3000 has previously implied that rap is a young man's game, telling GQ, I'm 48 years old, and not to say that age is a thing that dictates what you rap about, but in a way it does. And things that happen in my life, like, what are you talking about? I got to go get a colonoscopy. What are you rapping about? My eyesight is going bad. His comments were met with both disappointment and disagreement from fans and fellow rappers alike, with Lil Wayne calling them depressing. I read a depressing quote or two from someone I respect a lot in music. Wheezy said on his Apple Music show Young Money Radio last year, and they were asked why you ain't been doing music or whatever, and they was like, "Man, what I'm gonna talk about in my 40s? What am I supposed to talk about?" I was like, "Wow, that was so depressing." I'm like, "I have everything to talk about." That was what Wayne was saying in response. The Locks also urged the Love Below lyricist to pick up his notepad and head back into the booth. Speaking on the Breakfast Club, Sheik Louch said, Nah, so much to talk about, Dre. It's a lot, man. Just how you word it and put it. Of course, we're not talking about being in the hallways or trapping and all that, but it's a lot. Let us know what you've been going through. Styles P then chimed in and said, Rap about his travels. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. He could have rapped over the flute beat straight up. I think rapping about what he is going to rap about is a good point of view. It gives different people different perspectives. So Three Stacks is basically saying, I hear what y'all are saying, but my process is different than your process. What is it that you are rapping about? Because
Mhm.
perhaps the subject matter that you cover in your music is what makes it easy for you to continue to rap despite the fact that you are progressing into older age. So, what do you think of Andre 3000's comments and his retort to people who didn't like the fact that he said he doesn't like rapping past his 40s?
I mean, of course, I agree yet again. I don't know why it's so difficult for some of these dudes to understand. I think it's more, I think it's just a selfish part of consumers that just don't want to evolve themselves. How about that? And so for Andre, he's evolved. I'm pretty sure I think he spoke about it where he tried to get into that bag again, but it doesn't come out, the same type of way. And this spoke to him more. And so, and we had spoke on it where I was like, hey man, artists, you know, they wait for that inspiration to come in pretty much any fashion. And especially for somebody that's multi-talented like this guy, it could come to him in a way where it's like, hey man, I want to really learn to pick up an instrument and play this thing. So being a creative person that he is, he actually follows his own way in the sense where he's following his own creative path. And so his creative path says, when I'm trying to sit down and write something, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. But I love this music over here though. And I could just make beats, or instrumentals maybe. And then it probably evolved from whatever to whatever. And then he just started to actually feel this. And, I can dig that. So I think the selfish part of consumers, again, is just that, hey, man, just give me what I'm used to. Just give me my dopamine, man. I don't care what you got going on, And I remember when his album came out, I was seeing, videos online of people just saying, we don't want this, then they started playing, Players Anthem or, Bombs Over Baghdad or, this is the Andre we want. And it's like, hey man, I want Andre to be Andre. How about that? And Andre says he wants to do this. I think that's awesome. So, once you understand that you do got to grow up in life, you can't keep doing the same things, man. And so once you actually realize that, then his level of growing up was putting down a mic. Some of these guys that's in their 40s and 50s need to put the microphone down because they still talking like they on the block. What you got to prove to me, bro? I know exactly what you got going on right now. You got a podcast. So what are you talking about? Why are you talking all this tough guy rah-rah? But hey, I used to slang powder, I was like, I don't need what you used to do right now. Right now we're in a situation where we need to get out of those circumstances. So I think Andre is doing his part in changing the trajectory of hip hop history, if you will, because now there's going to be young people or people his age or whoever who are taking notes and watching him follow his own creative path and say, you know what, why can't I do my own version? And it might not be through a flute. It might not even be through an instrument. It might be through painting or whatever else, but, or designing something or what have you. But follow your path, man, and be true to yourself while you're growing up. But what are your thoughts, sir, on, Andre, giving his critics, a little response? How do you feel? You agree with him?
I agree with him 100%. This guy's my spirit animal. These rappers, yo. So it's funny, Lil Wayne, right? And I'm not trying to kill Lil Wayne.
No,
I'm not an anti-Lil Wayne guy.
Yeah.
But Wayne said, it's crazy Andre 3000 feels he has nothing to talk about. Like, I have everything to talk about. Yet, if you listen to Lil Wayne's latest music, it's the same thing, except it's more hard to understand because as he's gotten older and he's deteriorated a little bit, in my opinion, like what he is saying has literally become harder to understand than when he was younger. But for the most part, the subject matter has remained. Women, street stuff, more women, street stuff, sprinkled in a little bit of women. And did I forget to mention the street stuff? If you listen to Wayne's latest full-length project that he released, which I believe is the Collie Grove 2 with 2 Chainz, and I listened to this album several times. Okay. Most of the songs on that are women and street stuff and money. Back to the women and the street stuff and the money and the women and the street stuff. There's a couple of songs on there that get a little introspective, but across the entire track list of that album, it's mostly standard issue. So he can say he has everything to talk about, but if you actually listen to what he is putting out musically, he's playing directly into what Andre 3000 is talking about. Your subject matter the nature of your content necessitates a certain level of ease with which you can continue to keep doing this at a high clip.
Mhm.
I would put now, I don't know too much about Sheik Louch. In my opinion, Sheik Louch is the weak link of the locks. That
Whoa,
is my
whoa, hey.
opinion. Yeah, I know. That is my opinion. Hey, man, I'll say it. I don't care.
Uh,
Just like I'll say Joel Ortiz, in my opinion, is the weak link of Slaughterhouse.
whoa, hey.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I don't know too much about Sheik Louch's individual discography, so I'm not going to ignorantly speak on it. But I do know about Styles P.
yeah, yeah.
And Styles P can perhaps speak on this, because if you listen to his last two albums, I think the penultimate one and then the one before that he put out, it was called Ghosting. He
Mm.
still does the street stuff, but he does it within the context of, I used to be doing this, but now my life is, I'm eating good, I'm smoking good, and I'm opening my juiceries and I'm making investments and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that
tough.
was a nice chunk of the Ghosting album with Styles P talking about his juicing and how he doesn't believe in vaccines, and he's and he used to be on that stuff, but now he's not on that stuff. So there's a certain level of evolution there to where I can take comments that he would make in that regard seriously.
Mhm,
People like
mhm.
Sheik, again, I'm indifferent. I don't know Sheik's catalog, but Wayne, I don't get it. I don't get that. Um, and LL Cool J, he's so far removed from being relevant that his opinion on it kind of doesn't count to me. So, my whole thing with these rappers who want to criticize his comments, um, and this is just my personal opinion,
Mhm.
but I feel as though they can be speaking from a place of insecurity, because they see a person like Andre who's not going to conform to the typical modern standards for what constitutes popularized rap in terms of what it takes for you to be able to maintain relevance in the game. Because we've touched on music topics in the past, and we know that there is a discernible difference between rap and hip hop.
Mhm.
But current rap has been commodified and sold as a product, and it's been marketed as all of hip hop. We know that there's a difference between the two, but in terms of popularized music, it's current rap, which has been enveloped within the context of all of hip hop, and it's taken it over. And when we're talking about current rap, what gets popularized by the machine of the music industry is a particular kind of content. And to Andre 3000's point, that particular kind of content, if you're comfortable speaking in that tone, can carry you well into advanced age. But if
Mhm.
you are an individual who has the type of sensibilities, who does not want to speak on that kind of content, because as you're getting older, you're far removed from directly identifying with that kind of lifestyle, it makes less and less sense for you to continue to make music. So you either have to figure out a way to evolve your current lifestyle with your sound in order to stay in the game and still be popping, Nas and Killer Mike, or you can decide to do something else. Either one of those options works for me, but what you can't do is continue to peddle the same garbage, even though you're very far removed from doing those things in real life.
Mhm.
And what Andre 3000 has said is, I've drawn a line in the sand and I'm not going to continue to capitulate. Either I'm going to figure something else out, or I will just recuse myself from music in general. So I completely respect that, because he's not conforming, he's not capitulating, and he is following his own righteous path. Uh, and to me, there are direct parallels between Andre 3000 and the rest of the rap world, and people like Drake and Kendrick, because I firmly can see a future in which 5 years from now, 6 years from now, Kendrick decides he's just going to retire and just
Mhm.
be done with rap. Because the thing is, in order for you to receive the ample amount of inspiration and life experience that you need in order to feel impassioned to actually put something out into the world that you care about, it takes time for you to actually live and grow in life. But if you're sitting around making sewage all day like Drake, you can make an album a year.
Yeah.
Like if all you're gonna do is talk about women and strippers and women and tricking off on women and taking another rapper's woman and taking this rapper's baby mama and taking this rapper's wife and how much more money you got than the next person, and so that's why you're better. Like if that's all you're going to rap about, you can do that into perpetuity, because that's what popularized rap has mandated, that you
Mhm.
can continue to stay in this game and be relevant if you're talking about this stuff all the time.
Mhm.
3000 is not cut from that cloth, just like Kendrick is not cut from that cloth. If they don't have the impassioned inspiration to do something, they'll either figure out a way to make it evolve or move on to something else.
Right.
And if they talk about that, who are you to criticize it? So what? If you're happy in your lane making your music, even though you're past 40, then keep doing it. But I think the reason why some of these rappers may take issue with 3000's comments is because they're sort of revealing their own insecurities. And they even know that it's goofy to still be rapping about this stuff, even though they're 45, 50 years old and they ain't been on a block or been in the streets in a very, very long time. So, you know, it's a pick your poison thing. But I think for Three Stacks, his willfulness to not be a conformist is what is most gratifying to me about the way that he moves. And instead of criticizing him talking about this publicly, I think other rappers should follow suit and figure out a way to evolve their music to be age appropriate, as you like to say. Because until more of that happens, there's going to continue to be a lack of balance in terms of the representation of this music. And there's going to continue to be an exacerbation of the dynamic of people like Andre 3000 feeling as though he no longer has a place within the ecosystem of music.
Yeah, well said, man. And as far as the also well said on the Sheik Luch take, because hey guys, I don't know if let's be honest, who's really a Sheik fan right now? Like who like when they first came out, I was just a fan of the Locks, and you know Sheik had verses in there, but then you know it was still like I was always looking forward to Data Kiss.
Right.
And then Styles was like, yeah, you know, Styles and them, it was him and were in the same tier. Honestly, I think it was like after, you know, everything done, whatever, and the dust and settle, and Styles P started making mixtapes and doing his own thing. I was like, hey, this guy's cool.
I agree. Yeah,
So
Styles really rose to me after the heyday of the Locks. Like after their heyday, when Styles became more of a solo guy, that's when I started to say, "Oh man, Styles is really good."
yeah, Styles. So I'm a Styles fan. So every once in a while, it's not often, but every once in a while, I'll have a Styles P thing, and I'm just listening to a random song. And then I heard, you know, Lock stuff, and I was like, hey man, let me give Sheik a try. Nah, man, what hit, man. I'm still a fan of him though, but he comes off to me as a rapper. And I think Styles P and Jadakiss, they come off a little bit more, you know, intellectual with it. I would say it like that, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
But they're more brainy with it, and I like that. So, and I see what you mean as far as Styles P talking about things at, you know, age appropriate stuff. Because you know him talking about the juicing and all that stuff, and him used to be like, yeah, if you talk about street stuff, then it's like, hey, I used to, and I'm currently doing this though, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and if that's the transition, fine, bro, I'll give you a pass, because you're talking to people and you're trying to reach people in the street and trying to get them to think another way. So that I see what the mission is there, and I commend that. Because on top of just making the music about it, he's actually in the community trying to get people into it. So that's also awesome too. So I love what Style P does. So and that's the part about his comments that are slightly surprising, is that, you know, he wouldn't understand what Andre's trying to do. I know he gets it, but to ask of him to do that is like, come on, man, just let the man rock out. And let's see where this goes. Man, he'll drop it if he doesn't like it or whatever. But right now, I think the guy's enjoying it. And one thing that our community really needed was healing. Yeah. And we needed healing music, because right now our music is nothing but anthems for depravity and debauchery. And so that's the situation that we're in right now, because, you know, those 808s and those vibrations that come from the speaker and stuff like that, because you got to think our body moves, it's like a wave, it's in waves, electromagnetic stuff going on. And when you listen to those 808s, those high spikes, those hi-hats and stuff like that, and it gets in line with your vibration, it speeds it up. And so people want to call this anxiety. You're getting it from the music. You're getting it from the beat. Not even the words. I didn't get to the words yet. So then on top of that, then you get to the words, and then, put your hands up, put them in the air. You're not doing that in your house. But when you hear that in the club and they say put your arms up in the air, your arm will go up by command. And so at that point, you're following commands while intaking this vibration that's messing with your natural rhythm. So can we heal ourselves in a more anxious state? Or do we need some music that calms us down? And even if you don't listen to his album, at least support him in his journey on trying to heal people. So that's what I said. It's slightly selfish to say, hey, man, come down and start rapping too. It's like, hey, man, I think this guy's on a mission to do something else and to show people there's another way to reach people. And for him to do the jazz thing or whatever and having people out there camping out, going crazy out there just to hear him play the flute, it's awesome, powerful stuff, in my opinion. So I say keep rocking out with it. And yeah, and just like how you said, what are y'all rapping about?
Yeah.
What are you rapping about? So in the context, like we mentioned with Styles P, and like you always talk about with Nas and stuff, even with Killer Mike and stuff like that, there's a way to rap in that bracket, and you're still doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But that, like how Andre mentioned, that braggadocio stuff, at some point, a grown man don't brag on himself like that no more. And that's the kid part of it. Don't sit around here and brag on yourself like that. Talk about some real stuff, but everything has to be a flex. Everything has to be, so yeah, I agree, man. So, Andre, continuing to walk the right path, man. And I think I mentioned this before, but everybody has their own path. This is Andre's, but, try to listen to yours and follow it, genuinely, and, be unapologetic about it.
Yes.
And that's what, Andre is doing. And that's why his avatar in this situation is the cool thing. Cause this is more than us just kicking it around on some, oh, hey, rappers are hating on Andre. That's a degree of it. But the main message here is walk your path.
Yes.
And despite your colleagues and everybody's going to come out at you and say, hey, man, you need to do what I'm used to you doing. Or you can keep it real with yourself. And then real people are going to recognize that and attach themselves to you. And in today's day and age, I think I would rather have a whole bunch of real people with me than a whole bunch of fake weirdos. So, yeah, man. So Andre, I think he's got a lot of real people with him, us included. And I think us conscious approachians, I think you guys are some Andre fans too. So shout out to y'all too, man.
Yeah, big facts, man. Conformity is a disease. I firmly believe that groupthink mentality and conformity is a disease. I respect principled people who don't conform. Even if you look like me, but we have diametrically opposed views on things, but you feel strongly in those views and you walk that path in life, I got respect for that. What I don't have respect for is conformists, people who just do stuff because they think they are supposed to for whatever reason. It's ridiculous. And yeah, 3 Stacks is he's not a conformist, and I love him on the surface for that. There's obviously much deeper levels than that, but just on the surface, his refusal to be a conformist is something that I tremendously appreciate.
For sure.
And yeah, you raise a good point about vibrations and the power of music. I got a god brother who's a very prominent DJ. Shouts out to DJ Bo Weezy. And I used to tell him all the time, bro, you got superpowers because you one of the only people I've ever seen, and by him I meant like DJs, who literally can make people do whatever he wants by speaking into a microphone. Yeah, you can see, like some of them times when he used to be playing at them large parties at them clubs, he could have got on the microphone and been like, roll on the floor. And you better believe some of them people would have got on the floor and started rolling around.
No, for
So,
real.
yeah, this stuff has that kind of power, man. I think people should just wake up and, you know, listen to that little voice in their head and understand how not being a conformist is actually a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Bo Weezy, man. He's a Tallahassee Hall of Famer, man.
Yeah,
That
oh
guy's a
yeah,
Hall of
for
Famer.
sure. That guy, he is a superstar, boy. That boy is superstar.